Senate will come to order. The Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betcourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook, Creighton, Eckhart, Flores, Gutierrez, Hagenbu, Hall, Hinojosa Nueces, Hinojosa Hidalgo, Huffman, Hughes, Johnson, King, Colcourse, Menendez, Middleton, Miles, Nichols, Parker, Paxton, Perry, Schwartner, Sparks, West, Zaffarini.
Members, quorum is present. Please rise in the gallery and on the floor for the invocation by Senator Hagenbu.
Please bow with me. Father God, praise and glory and honor to you. Oh Lord, you've been so good to us. You've breathed life into us, and you've given us salvation through your Son, Jesus. Thank you for how you've blessed our great land and been so faithful to us. Forgive us for the times we've not been faithful to you. Help us to humble ourselves and pray and seek your face and turn our ways. And you've said you will hear from heaven and forgive us, and you will heal our land. Lord, we cry out to you for the families that are hurting from the loss of loved ones in the flood. Lord, you're the great comforter. May your spirit be with them in a special way now and give them the peace that surpasses understanding in Christ. Lord, we lift up all those in our military defending our country, all of our first responders and their families. Protect them, give them great skill and discernment in their work. And Lord, we pray for all of our elected officials, from our president down to local officials, including each member of this body and their families. Please bless them. Lord, as your word says in 1 Corinthians, although we are many members with our differences, we are one body. Work within us to do your will, to serve the people of Texas well. In Jesus' name, amen.
Great prayer there, Mr. Freshman. That was very good. Very good. No longer a freshman. Dean of the Senate moves to dispense the reading of yesterday's journal. Any objection? Hearing none. Motion is adopted. Following message from the governor and secretary. Read the message.
To the Senate of the 89th Legislature, second call session, I ask the advice, consent, and confirmation of the Senate with respect to the following appointments. Texas State Board of Examiners of Professional Counselors, Ms. Nadia M. Stewart from Round Rock. 159th Judicial District, Angelina County District Attorney, the Honorable Amy N. Wren, Lufkin. Texas Historical Commission, Mr. John W. Crane, Dallas. General Mike Hagee, Fredericksburg. Ms. Vernon K. Hines, Pleasanton. Mr. Gilbert E. Pete Peterson III, Alpine. Mr. Robert D. Dick Tips, San Antonio. Including others. Respectfully submitted, Greg Abbott, Governor of Texas, to nominations.
Members, if there's no objection, I'd like to postpone the reading and referral of bills and resolutions to the end of today's calendar. Any objection? Hearing none. Motion adopted. Members, that concludes the morning call. Senator Betancourt, you have a crowd around your desk. I'm getting ready to call on you. Okay. Chair lays out on third reading and final passage Senate Bill 10. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 10, relating to the calculation of the voter approval tax rate for certain taxing units.
You're recognized on final.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. It took 38 years to get the first reduction in the rollback rate to now a voter approved rate of 3.5%, and this bill will lower the voter approved rate to 2.5% on cities and counties above 75,000 in population, providing more property tax relief starting next year. And with that, I move final passage of Senate Bill 10.
Senator Hinojosa, what purpose?
Mr. President, I would like to make a short closing statement.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. And, Senator Betancourt, for me, I know property taxes remain one of the main concerns. That's why I supported probably 90%, 95% of the property tax legislation. We raised the homestead exemption to $140,000. I supported that. But I am concerned about Senate Bill 10. And when we passed Senate Bill 10, we took it up during a special session. And as you all know, when we did the 2 sessions ago on 3.5 cap, we had a long runway where many of our local public officials had a chance to come and testify for, against, or the consequence and prepare. And apparently the 3.5%, they're finding ways to get around it. And we discussed that and tried to find ways to close the loopholes. And we did that last session on dealing with the issue of increments. And I don't know the consequences of what will happen with a 2.5 cap. We have a short runway during a special session where we're having issues right now with inflation and most of the funding that our local governmental entities, and even here in the state of Texas, relied was passed by Congress, where we had different legislation from the American Act to the CARES Act, helping us get through a rough period. And my main concern right now, if you look at Hidalgo County, you educated me about going up, they were going over 50%, and I had a conversation with the county judge because that was too high and it shouldn't be that way. He did make a point. He did say that the jail population in Hidalgo County has increased, and they contracted for an additional 500 beds. We built a new county courthouse. We're having problems in hiring prosecutors, our assistant district attorneys, in meeting the salaries. We're very much concerned about inflation, concerned about tariffs, concerned about the increasing cost of living. And the federal budget has cut many of these programs. What I would, and members, I'm just saying what I think, and that is that this type of legislation should be probably wait till regular session. Regular session so we can figure out what consequences it will have on our local communities when we have 29% deduction on an annual basis from the general revenue. I will, for those reasons, as I see the cuts in Medicaid, the Affordable Care Act, SNAP, tariffs, inflation, and other unknown factors that we at least ought to wait to see what impact will happen to our local communities come next session. During next session, we'll have a long runway where we'll have our local public officials, cities and counties, and public school districts come and talk to us and educate us.
Excuse me, Senator. Can we have quiet on the floor? Got a lot of conversations going on. Can't hear the senator. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. And that's why I just want to allow our public officials time to come and talk to us. and including the lobbyists, Senator Middleton, to educate us, is this a good positive thing for our local constituents or a negative impact? With that, Mr. President, that's why I'll vote no. Hopefully Senator Betancourt or the House will agree to bring this up to the regular session and not during the special session when we have such a short runway and very short notice. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Eckhart, what purpose?
Thank you so much, Mr. President, to speak against the bill on third reading.
You're recognized.
Final passage, I'm sorry. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. I recognize the difficult position that Senator Betancourt has been in under a call requiring additional property tax cuts. I understand that this may have been the only mechanism that wouldn't do significant damage to our local governmental entities who are our partners. These partners of ours pay for corrections officers. They pay for dispatchers. They pay for emergency medical services. They pay for warning systems in floods. They pay for debris removal after major flood events. They pay for our full-time employees who respond to individuals who are in mental health crisis. They pay for these things with property taxes. By putting a 2.5% trigger on these communities, we are forcing them to tax ratification elections to pay for things that the state government is unwilling to pay for. I want to repeat that, and I will give you a specific example. In public education, we did a significant property tax cut, which I voted for, and it had a significant state backfill for that property tax cut so that our independent school districts would not go upside down from a budget standpoint, right? We all remember that. We put in a significant backfill so that ratcheting down on the property taxes for independent school districts would not totally upend those budgets. We are not doing the same for our other local governmental entities with this 2.5%. Their only recourse, because we are not backfilling them, their only recourse is to go to tax ratification elections. And so what we are going to see from a 2.5%, and I think that you all heard this in our very candid conversation between Senator Betancourt and I, that local governments are going to go to tax ratification elections as a matter of course to pay for things that they must pay for. Things like increased police presence, expanded emergency services, sobering centers and mental health diversion programs, homelessness programs, the kind of things that we in this chamber expect them to do, and the kind of things that their constituency also expects them to do. So this 2.5% policy will not reduce taxes. What it will do, and I think Senator Betancourt was very candid about this, what it will do is take much more of our local budgeting process to the ballot box. That may be a laudable thing, but I'm telling you, mark my words, this will not be a property tax decrease, but it will be a lot more voter involvement at the ballot box in the budgeting process for things that our locals must pay for that we are unwilling to invest in as a state.
Senator Betancourt, and final passage.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just to assure my colleagues, in the truth in taxation calculation, jails and Senator Hinojosa, jails are exempt, and indigent defense and mental support is exempt. I also want to point out that this year, for the first time, we put $90 million into rural ambulances, $331 million into sheriff's departments. So not only are we paying for things that we believe are good public policy, the actual code itself exempts the two areas that you all just talked about. So I just wanted to make sure we set the record clear, because I would like to, Senator Hinojosa, have a conversation with your county judge, because I think he knows the code all too well. And with that, I move final passage of Senate Bill 10.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bettencourt, Birdwell, Blanco.
18 ayes, 12 nays. The bill is finally passed. Thank you. Chair lays out on third reading and final passage Senate Bill 8. Secretary will read the caption.
Senate Bill 8, relating to the designation use of certain spaces and facilities according to sex.
Is there anyone that wishes to speak on the bill or against the bill? Senator Zaffarini, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President and members, this bill raises serious concerns about protecting the rights and dignity of every Texan, especially given the wide range of potential civil rights violations that could result from its private citizen enforcement mechanism. Senate Bill 8 defines sex solely as biological male or female, but this narrow approach risks conflict with federal anti-discrimination laws and could expose Texas agencies and schools to litigation and loss of funding. It also disregards intersex persons, raising equal protection concerns. Nobody wants men in women's restrooms or women in men's restrooms, but this bill is not about that. By tying sex to reproductive anatomy, the bill invites intrusive verification measures that threaten privacy and civil liberties. The bill's limited exceptions fail to address common real-world situations, potentially conflicting with disability and caregiver protections. What's more, its mandate to house inmates solely by biological sex increases risks of violence and liability under the Prison Rape Elimination Act and the Eighth Amendment. Equally concerning, restricting access in family violence shelters would endanger transgender women fleeing abuse and risk violating the Violence Against Women Act, putting federal funding at stake. Lastly, its civil penalties would chill local governments from enacting protections for transgender Texans, silencing local control while creating significant legal exposure for our state. Senate Bill 8 does not enhance safety or fairness. It invites litigation, burdens local governments, and silences vulnerable Texans. For these reasons and more, I will respectfully vote no regarding Senate Bill 8. Thank you, Mr. President and members.
Thank you, Dean. Senator Hinojosa, what purpose?
Short closing statement.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, we have discussed this bill many, many times on the Senate floor, but here are my concerns. In the 38 plus years that I've served the Texas legislature, I have never heard a complaint about this issue existing in our public schools. Never. From our teachers, from our parents, from our school board members. And what it does seems to me that it's creating a solution for a problem that does not exist. Nobody wants men in little girls' bathroom. But the reality is that how do we enforce this law? There's no practical way to do that. And I asked Senator Middleton yesterday, well, it's very general. Will you have someone there by the bathroom checking on little girls or little boys? Are you really a male or a female? It's going to be a teacher, a police officer, or who? And the reality is there's no way to enforce this, yet we're imposing a $5,000 penalty, $25,000 penalty, giving private citizens the right to file lawsuits. The reality is that we should allow, and Senator Middleton agreed with me yesterday when I said this, the way your bill is written, you are giving discretion to your local school districts, for example, to have maybe the PTA, have the teachers, have the parents, have the administrators, try to work out some of these issues and address them locally. I know probably the city of Houston is very different from the city of McAllen. Or city of McAllen is very different from what they would do up in El Paso or Amarillo or Lubbock. So my main concern is this is not a bill that is very practical in real life, that really has no enforcement, but will cause a lot of issues, a lot of problems for our local communities, especially our public schools that are already under a lot of pressure and stress with many of the changes that we've been making with DEI and other restrictions and responsibilities we continue to place on our school teachers and on our parents and on our school children. With that, I will respectfully vote no on Senate Bill 8.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Senator. Senator Menendez, excuse me.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, members, we, just like Senator Hillside just mentioned, we've been talking about this for some time. And, when we came together for this special session, we were thinking about the victims and the horrific loss of life in the Hill Country. And here we are again, talking about something that, when it comes to the idea, we can all agree. No one on this floor, probably no one in this building, wants anyone attacking anybody in a bathroom or a changing room or any other private space. Women's safety is a priority for all of us. And these aren't just words. You can take looks at the bills that have been filed that would have actually protected women, such as there's Senate Bill 181 that would have required TDCJ to adopt a gender-responsive risk needs assessment. 182 would have expanded the program for accessibility for female inmates through redirecting TDCJ to ensure a wide variety of programming available to female inmates. We would have had other bills requiring registered lobbyists to complete sexual harassment prevention trainings and ethics. And all of these bills I have filed multiple times, and they have not had a hearing. Had another bill that would have allowed for sexual harassment to be considered a viable reason for an employee to receive unemployment benefits as they seek a new employment opportunity. Another bill that would have required TDCJ to screen female inmates who are pregnant and have given birth for depression, so we could actually help the women and the mothers and the children. Unfortunately, none of these bills received a hearing during the 89th legislature. Yet, all of them are ways in which we can protect women in different spaces. It's not lost on me that as a male legislator, I want to make sure that I'm approaching women's issues with data, evidence-based research, and most importantly, input from my constituents. This bill does not consider any of that. Studies have repeatedly shown that transgendered individuals are 9 times more likely to face sexual assault and harassment in a jail or prison. They're also 4 times as likely as their counterparts to experience intimate partner violence. But have any bills been heard to protect them? No. Allowing for this bill to pass will allow for the constant harassment of these individuals and will do nothing to protect women. It actually puts all women at risk for sexual harassment and physical violence. This bill will only harm individuals who do not fit the ideal picture of what a woman looks like, and it sends a message to every gender nonconforming individual in our state that their existence is up for debate. This bill will also open up harassment of women who look too masculine or men who look too feminine. We have already seen the harms of bills like this, as there were numerous reports last session of people in this state capitol being filmed for using the restroom and those videos being posted online. Members, this is not okay. And frankly, it's despicable that someone would spend their time policing a restroom, a place where people go to relieve themselves, change their children's diapers, or help someone else use the restroom because they can't do so on their own. Every single Texan deserves privacy, and their privacy should be protected. We've listened to hours of testimony of individuals expressing their fear to use the bathroom, because they just look different, or fear taking their child to the bathroom because they will be harassed for being in the wrong gender restroom. You know, even if you can't understand how this bill will impact people because they're different, it's almost certain that upon this bill passing, Texans will see an increase in suicide attempts and calls to our mental health emergency services. Studies have shown that upon the passage of anti-trans laws, suicide rates increase as much as 72% in the following years of those acts passing. Passing this bill will put more teenagers at risk for suicide and has the potential for greater loss of innocent lives because they no longer feel accepted in their state. Families will have to bury and mourn the lives of their loved ones because their family member was subject to harassment, all due to their gender identity. I wish we could all consider the true implications of this bill before casting our votes and think about how this bill will truly impact our communities. And ask yourselves, do you really want to lead with hate or love in your heart? Folks, we've gone more than 10 years trying to pass this bill. And none of the horrific things that are purported to stop have been happening. We're not just voting on a policy, we're voting on people's lives. Let's protect all Texans, no matter what they look like, no matter who they love, or how they identify. It's got to be hard for folks who are feeling singled out, who are feeling threatened. And so to the LGBTQ plus members in this state and their families listening, please don't give up. Please know that you have people here fighting for all of you, and know that all of you matter. And together we will continue to fight for a more just world. I can understand why you might be putting forward this policy because you think it might help you politically, but it's, once again, like Senator Hinojosa said, it's a solution in search of a problem. And for those reasons, I will be voting no. Thank you, Mr. President and members.
Senator Cook, you're recognized for what purpose?
To speak against the bill.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Trans people have always existed. They will exist after this ban, and they are not a threat to my or your public safety. Floods are a threat to my safety. Not being able to afford food on the table is a threat to our safety. Men who control women are a threat to our safety. I love my trans brothers, sisters, and siblings. And I believe that they are each beautiful, miraculous creations of God. To suggest otherwise, to target and attack them, is an affront to our God's limitless vision for his people. I'm sick and tired of paying for political ads and culture war games with my time and my district's resources. Sexual assault and indecency is already illegal in every room in every county. But as usual, nothing satisfies the monsters of greed and political ambition. So we're here, disrupting entire networks of care so someone can score airtime for a campaign. The author's definitions have changed throughout his many versions of these different bills. It's sloppy policy, and it's dangerous. I'm sick to my stomach to know that the author refused amendments from violence shelters, who needed small changes to stay in compliance with federal law and serve the impacted communities who understand how this bill will play out better than any of us. It's beyond parody and it's grotesque. I'm voting no, and I hope y'all do too.
Senator Middleton on final passage.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, safety and privacy are common sense. And so for all the daughters of our great state, I move final passage.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Bardwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook.
19 ayes and 11 nays. The bill is finally passed. Thank you. Chair lays out on third reading and final passage Senate Bill 15. Secretary will read the caption.
Senate Bill 15, relating to certain files maintained by a law enforcement agency regarding certain employees of the agency.
Anyone wish to speak on the bill? If not, Senator King, you recognize final passage.
Move final passage.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Betancourt, Birdwell, Blanco.
18 ayes, 12 nays. The bill is finally passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President and members.
Chair lays out on third reading and final passage Senate Bill 12. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 12, relating to the duty of the Attorney General to prosecute criminal offenses prescribed by the election laws of this state.
Senator Eckhart, what purpose?
To speak against the bill on final passage.
You're recognized.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, this bill is yet another in a line of bills designed to suppress the vote. Just today, Tarrant County is taking up a measure to reduce the number of polling places by 100 in advance of this coming November election. And of course, you all saw the coverage over the course of the last 24 to 48 hours where the Trump administration is contemplating an executive order to ostensibly get rid of mail-in ballots. So we are seeing a line, a trend here. And part of that trend is giving criminal prosecutorial authority to the Texas Attorney General in an area of prosecution that is so rare, an area in which the numbers of corroboratable cases are so few, and even where they do exist, hardly ever actually are at the level of influencing an election. So this is the timing of this bill must be taken into consideration. We have issues with flooding across our state. We have issues with our uninsured rate across our state. We have so many things that need to be addressed, things that truly do threaten our safety and truly do threaten our voice in democracy. This is not one of them. As a matter of fact, I believe that this bill actually threatens Texans rather than keeps them safer.
Senator Hughes on final passage.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, as we lay this issue to rest for this special session, I just want to remember that in 1985, this legislature gave the Attorney General authority to prosecute election crimes. 1985, and none of us were here, but there were 25 Democrats and 6 Republicans in the Texas Senate. Over in the House, there were 95 Democrats and 55 Republicans and a Democrat governor, Mark White. That's who was in charge when the Attorney General was given authority to prosecute election crimes, because they recognized, both parties recognized, that sometimes the local prosecutor is not in the best position to do that. The local prosecutor could be in cahoots with folks, could be afraid of them, could have a conflict. There are many reasons why election offense is the very heart of our democracy in the purest sense. There's a reason why they are treated in a special way. So that was the law for decades until a few years ago when the Court of Criminal Appeals discovered that they didn't think it was constitutional. We believe that opinion was wrongly decided. However, to address their concerns, the statute which they blocked, which the Court of Criminal Appeals blocked, it says the Attorney General may prosecute. And so, to make sure we're crystal clear and relying on the Texas Constitution, and like you know, there were questions about constitutionality. Let me read from Article 4, Section 22 of the Texas Constitution. It says the Attorney General shall perform other duties as may be required by law. And so, the bill before us will put that requirement on the Attorney General's office to make triple sure that we are in complete compliance with the Texas Constitution. This makes sense. It was the law for a long time. We're just trying to restore what the law was. And so, we often hear about how there are not many prosecutions. Well, that's interesting. When you take away the AG's power to prosecute and rely on local prosecutors, some of whom don't want to prosecute, you don't see as many prosecutions. That seems axiomatic to me. But one thing is, I go to my seat. Many times election crimes are seen as vague or fleeting or not real. Let me share with you some sworn testimony. And that's what this bill is about. This is actual sworn testimony of the kind of cheating that we're trying to stop. Not a voter trying to cheat, but a paid election worker trying to mislead, trying to overcome a voter's will. That's what the cases normally look like. And so let me tell you who we're talking about. I'm reading from a trial transcript, sworn testimony given in open court, taken down by a court reporter. You're going to hear about Marcella. Marcella testified that she was being paid by one of the campaigns to work this election. So that's Marcella. She said she was being paid by a campaign to work this election. And so now I'm going to read you the testimony of Ms. Cavazos. She was not real familiar with the voting process, and she was excited about voting. She was doing her duty. She was exercising her right as an American and making her voice heard. This was important in a local election, by the way, as many cases of these are a local election. And so here's what she said about being new to this process and going to vote. And I'm quoting her. And she says, I go to the polling place and Marcella goes up. Remember, Marcella is that paid election worker. Ms. Cavazos says, I go to the polling place and Marcella goes up. I go to the polls and Marcella comes up behind me. I had the intention of, she was going to assist me how to do those things because I didn't understand that machine. So she started punching in the machine. I don't even remember the language in the poll. So she was telling me, you are going to press here and you are going to press over there. So I saw that she put it in favor of the team that she was on. Then the witnesses asked, you didn't mark it? And Ms. Cavazos says, no, I didn't touch the poll at any time. I had the idea that she was giving me like a tour of how to do those things and that she was going to leave. So by the time I told her, okay, let me vote on my own, she said, no, you already voted. I know nobody on this floor or in the sound of my voice is in favor of that. That's what this bill's about. The rights of those voters have to be protected. Their voice has to be heard. We can't let them be taken advantage of, coerced, threatened by illegal activity, and that's why the AG must have this authority. And so I move final passage of Senate Bill 12.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bettencourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell.
18 ayes, 12 nays. The bill is finally passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senators.
Chair lays out on third reading and final passage, Senate Bill 6. Secretary, read the caption.
Senate Bill 6, relating to the regulation of certain products derived from hemp.
Anyone wish to speak against the bill or on the bill? Seeing none, Senator Perry, you're recognized on final passage.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Every state that has legalized recreational pot may have less people in prison, but they have more people laying on the street, and definitely from a business community, less people working because of lost productivity. With that, I hope that the ban goes through on the House and the Senate. It sends a strong message. We don't need to be another California, Colorado, Oregon, New Mexico, New York City. Move final passage, Senate Bill 6.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bencourt, Birdwell, Blanco, Campbell, Cook.
22 ayes, 8 nays. The bill is finally passed. Thank you. Chair lays out on third reading and final passage, Senate Bill 13. Secretary will read the caption.
Senate Bill 13, relating to the use by a political subdivision of public funds for lobbying activities.
Senator Hinojosa, do you wish to speak? I see your light.
Just a brief closing statement, Mr. President.
You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. So Middleton, I plan to vote against Senate Bill 13. There are various reasons for that. Number one, many of local public officials work part-time. They have full-time jobs, having to deal with many local issues, from flooding to infrastructure to taking care of health care, trash collection, and what have you. They don't have the time to come up here maybe once in a while, but to really learn the process. They usually do the jobs without getting paid back home. The city commissioners, county commissioners, or school board members. But they don't have the expertise to understand and know each senator, each staff person, how the process works. Where there are over 4,000, 5,000 bills passed. So when they come up here on their own, they usually are lost, in a sense. They get to talk to maybe to their own senator or their own state rep, but they don't get to visit the various offices and know which bills are pending, which bills are set for a hearing, and many times without much notice. As you notice, we take bills here from one day to the next and debate them here on the Senate floor. So to me, it's very important that we allow them to have a voice. I think what this bill does is stifles their voice, not allowing them to be able to come here. At the end of the day, they are responsible and have to answer to their own voters if they use taxpayers' money to hire lobbyists. And not all lobbyists are on the same page. They could be representing certain school districts. Some may be against the bill and some for the bill. So there's no uniformity and one side in all of these debates. I don't have any issues or problems in visiting with lobbyists because they are hired by a school district, hired by a city, or hired by a county who may oppose one of my bills. That's the way the system works. But I do not believe that we should be shutting them out, cutting them off, and not allowing them to fully participate in our legislative process, so they can also come and get help and assist in them understanding a very complex and complicated legislative process that we have here in the state capitol. For that reason and many others, I will vote no on Senate Bill 13. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Menendez.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I think we've all lost track of how many times we've had to debate this bill, but here we are on lucky Senate Bill 13. And, with everything going on in this state, just thinking about the time and the effort we're wasting on this. Whether local elected officials should be allowed to hire professionals to advocate on behalf of their communities. I think there's a reason this bill has not been passed. I think because, as our colleague Senator Hinojosa just said, it strips away a tool from cities, school districts, rural communities that they rely to have a voice here in Austin. And what's even more frustrating is we can't even get a consistent definition of what is a political subdivision. In one bill, a charter school is included as a political subdivision when it's convenient, but in this one, they're not. The inconsistency, it makes you wonder why. What are we doing? Are we just picking and choosing how words are defined depending on what serves the moment? Frankly, it's very, very frustrating that we've reached a place where in this chamber where we're willing to pick and choose, where something's okay in one context but not in another, all to serve a political point. We sit here once again to talk about, as Senator Milton has called them, the fat cats on Congress. But maybe they are, and maybe they're not just some wasteful middlemen. But I believe that the reality is that many of them are here representing many of our communities, school boards, coalitions, and leaders who are back in our districts, some near and some very far, making sure their constituents are well represented. Excuse me. Without them, many small and rural municipalities will face higher costs, lose access to critical conversations, and be drowned out by better funded voices. As a reminder, during the committee in Kerrville, we heard from rural county judges who told me this bill will hurt them and that they can't afford to be here all the time. Those judges were from Tom Green County, Mason, Menard, San Saba, and McCullough. As we sit here and we debate this bill again, let's think about the argument that's being made. We continue to argue that these lobbyists are a waste of taxpayer money because not every taxpayer supports what the lobby advocates for. But following that same logic, if I lived in your district and I didn't vote for you, then my tax dollars would still go towards the work you do and the policies you advocate for. As legislators, we took an oath to serve the people of Texas and to advocate on behalf of our constituents. Even knowing not every taxpayer or constituent will agree with us, and we still continue to serve all of them. But here's the reality. The same goes for the advocacy efforts from associations and nonprofits who exist to support the same democratic process. Their advocacy does not come from backdoor, backroom deals or special interests. They come from a collective grassroots input, the same process used across the state to shape legislative agendas, just scaled to help the cities, the districts, and the multiple coalitions that cannot be in the room every day. This bill does not empower taxpayers, it silences them, especially those who are the furthest away from the Capitol. Members, I know that all of you agree we have a lot of real crises affecting our state right now, and I guarantee you this is not one of those. And for that reason and many others, I will be voting against this bill because I've heard from many of our elected officials that this is not necessary. And what I don't understand is if it is such a good public policy and you want it to apply to school districts, public school districts, why do you, and I checked with lawyers last night, this morning, they don't feel that it is crystal clear that charter schools are included. And if you think it's a good public policy, why not make sure that they're included? I don't see what the harm is. But the bill is flawed, and I will be voting no. Thank you, Mr. President, members.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Johnson,
Speak on the bill.
you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, I think this bill represents another round of big government imposed on the state by the Senate majority. It is another instance of this body arrogating the powers that properly lie with city officials, substituting the judgment of the majority of the Senate for the judgment of the majority of council members and commissioners' courts and school boards around the state that were entrusted by the voters to exercise their judgment and their authority over the matters for which they have the greatest knowledge and the closest contact to the voters. I'll be voting against it.
Senator Miles, Senator Mays Middleton. Look at all the M's right there. You're recognized on final passage.
Thank you, Mr. President, members. Senator Menendez is right. This is a very tough bill. And it's because so many are profiting off our taxpayers. And frankly, there may be a lot in this building that are auditioning for a taxpayer-funded lobbying job right now. So we have a choice with this. Are we going to put our taxpayers first or lobbyists first? And I move final passage to end this corrupt and unethical practice.
Secretary will call the roll.
Alvarado, Bettencourt, Birdwell, Blanco.
18 ayes, 11 nays. The bill is finally passed. Thank you, Senator Middleton. The President's desk is clear. Any announcements? The chair recognizes the Dean of the Senate for a highly privileged motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the Senate adjourn until 7 p.m. Thursday, August 21st, pending the reading and referral of bills and the receipt of messages and committee reports. Don't kill the messenger.
We would never think of it, Dean. You would come back to get us all. Any objection? The chair hears none. The Senate stands adjourned until 7 p.m. Thursday, August 21st, pending the reading and referral of bills and receipt of messages and committee reports. Thank you, members.